Hey everyone, before the video starts, I just want to say that I'm currently suffering from a pretty bad cold, and my voice is going to sound a little off in this video. You can probably tell if you heard last night's video. Anyways, with that out of the way, onto the video. Number 1. In the year 1901, French authorities received an ominous tip that a woman was being held hostage at an aristocrat's house. They searched the home. In the pitch-black attic, they found this extremely skinny woman. She was only 55 pounds and barely clinging to life. She was trapped there for 25 years. Her name was Blanche Monnier. Her mother was the one holding her. Number 2. Some of you might know this story. This is a photo of Anneliese, of the exorcism of Anneliese Michael. She was a Catholic living a normal life in the 1960s. She had begun to take part in very odd behaviors, such as hallucinating, eating spiders, and even drinking her own urine. Clearly, something was wrong with her, mentally, but her family being as religious as they were, they thought she was possessed by a demon. They eventually subjected her to 67 exorcisms. At the end of it all, she was only weighing 66 pounds and still acting the same as before. She would eventually pass away in 1976. It is believed by many that her story was an inspiration for the movie The Exorcism. Number 3. On the morning of July 2nd, 1951, this event occurred in St. Petersburg, Florida. Mary Reeser's landlord took a trip to the elderly woman's apartment to deliver a telegram. Upon arriving, she noticed that the door was quite warm that morning. Upon entry, she found that Reeser's remains were nothing but a pile of ashes by a broken chair. The authorities were called, but were unable to identify the cause of the fire. They concluded that Reeser had gone up in flames due to a candle of some sort, and her body fat fed the flames. To this day, it is still widely believed that this was a case of spontaneous human combustion. Number 4. In 1959, a Soviet scientist, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, managed to combine 2 dogs together and keep it alive. It only took 23 times. This resulted in the death of almost 50 dogs. The experiment was very cruel, and the dog only lived for about 4 days. Number 5. John Lennon and his killer. December 8th, 1980. John Lennon is signing autographs while he's making his way to his New York apartment. A fan named Mark David Chapman approaches him, asking for an autograph. Little did he know, he was signing it for the man that would be his killer. On the way home, at around 10:50 p.m., Chapman would come out of the darkness and fire 4 shots into Lennon's back. He was pronounced dead only 25 minutes later at the hospital. He was very kind to me, Chapman would go on to say. A very decent man. Number 6. On February 22nd, 1970, 14-year-old Keith Sapsford runs away from boarding school. He longed to see the world. He snuck into the tarmac of Sydney International Airport. He then hid inside a Tokyo-bound plane as another teenage photographer looked from afar, just trying to get shots of airplane takeoffs. While waiting for a flight of his own, he snapped Keith falling to his death. All my son wanted to do was see the world, his father Charles later recalled. He had itchy feet. His determination to see how the rest of the world lives has cost him his life. Number 7. The assassination of Ronaldo Dagsa. Barely after midnight on New Year's Day of 2011, Filipino politician Reynold Dagsa snapped a photo of his family outside on the streets of Caloocan. He then photographed a picture of his killer. The police were actually able to use this to help identify him and bring him to justice. Number 8. A photo of Ed Gein's house. This photo was snapped in 1957 of the serial killer Ed Gein's home. Ed Gein being the inspiration of popular horror movies like Psycho and Silence of the Lambs. Ed was neglected by his mother. When she died, he would dress up in her clothes, sometimes in full drag. He would kill women around his hometown and keep certain body parts. The officers had searched and found furniture and kitchen utensils made from human remains and gutted corpses in his shed. a belt fashioned out of human nipples, and a jar of organs. After this, Ed was very quickly locked up in an institute where he would stay until his death. And finally, number 9. This is a photo of what mental asylums were like for people in the 1900s. Like we covered earlier in the video, people weren't really treated the best if they had mental disorders back in the day. That is definitely apparent in this picture.